Welcome to the Doing Hard Things podcast. We've all heard that we can do hard things, but what about when it coincides with a cooperative and philanthropic spirit? That's where we find purpose-driven business at the crossroads of hard things and heart things. I'm your host, Amanda Mazzo. I'm an artist and business owner and have been my own boss for more than 15 years. I'm also a purpose mentor to collegiate juniors and seniors and am so inspired by conversations around who people are becoming versus what they're achieving. My two guests today are Tausha Dickinson and Anthony Romano. Tausha is the camera-slinging maestro who turns mere mortals into photographic royalty with 15 years of lens-slaying experience, specializing in headshots, branding, and all things badass. Anthony is a portrait photographer specializing in creative portraits, branding, and headshots. His background in graphic design and marketing direction add to his creative arsenal of services. Beyond both of their bios, these two have a knack for capturing the true essence of their subjects, even if it's something about themselves the clients could not initially see. Plus, they're some of my most favorite fellow creatives, and I cannot wait to introduce you. We're so glad you're here. Now let's get to the heart of it. Tausha Dickinson, Anthony Romano, welcome to Doing Hard Things.
Thank you.
I'm so glad to be in the same room with you. I always have the best time. You're two of my literal favorite people. And so my first question is, do you ever just have boring downtime? Because I feel like there's a disco ball following you at all times that you bring the party wherever you go. We've already been laughing all morning. So
yes. Do I ever have downtime? I definitely do. Like when I'm at home, just with my family, with my husband and my son, I'm definitely just like, okay, I'm tapping out. We're pretty good about making sure that each other get like a couple hours a week at least to just be like, do your own thing.
Yeah.
Kid free. You have to, or else you go insane. Yeah. How about you?
Yeah. I mean, downtime really just lately consists of TikTok these days.
I was totally expecting Anthony to deliver a deadpan response like, no, I do not have downtime. There is a literal party everywhere I go.
Not a party. I mean, the downtime in my brain doesn't exist. Like it's constantly, the hamster is not dead. It's just continuously
Got it. It's
running.
on a wheel.
Oh yeah. And I just want him to just kind of lay there and then like do the flip over thing because he's just knocked out.
Well, there is a point to this. I mean, I love having just a great time with you and talking about y'all, about whatever, but there is a point here. We're talking about purpose-driven business and you both work for yourselves. And so I want to start there to talk about your individual businesses. Why'd you start? How'd you start? How's it going?
Anthony, go ahead.
I'll take the lead on this one. So for me, quick background, I guess, and well, you know.
I do know, and I will say we read your bios at the very beginning, so
okay.
we know.
So now everybody
we know
knows.
a little bit, but give it, spill the tea. Let's hear it.
Yeah, so I was in marketing for like probably about 17 years. Most recently kind of made the jump to full-time freelancer, which was super scary, but I had people like Tausha in my corner and we've chatted about it. And, you know, I was kind of on the, should I do this or should I not?
And I was like, yes, do it.
Yeah, same.
And it's one of those things where like, and I'm sure we'll probably talk about this or whatever, but like you kind of don't realize that was probably the best decision you've made. And like, it is so hard. Like, I know we'll talk about that too. Like being a freelancer is, I don't want to say not fun, but there's so much more than just being able to be creative. Like you're a business owner, you're an accountant, you're a, travel concierge. Like you're doing all the things that you're like, could I just have like another adult to like adult more than me? Because like, I just want to make things pretty. And it's like, that's not really how that works.
Right.
And so for me, like starting my own business and kind of going through that process, that's part of the learning curve that I've still been riding of like, okay, yes, I have the skill set. I have a skill set, I have, great contacts or whatever, but it doesn't stop there. Like you have to continuously market yourself. And Tausha knows like, I am not a networker, and so it's like to try to network for being kind of an introvert. Like I come across kind of extroverted, but introversially, that's my new word.
Yeah, I like it.
Introversially, that's where my soul is. And so like trying to find ways for me to make it seem more easier for me to comprehend and easier to do has been kind of the struggle for my business. But by going full-time freelance has been a really great decision. And I've made so many great connections that I wouldn't have made if I would have stuck in that like day-to-day corporate kind of thing.
Yeah.
and being more of a people person and being around people is kind of what fuels my fire. So it's been very interesting, which sounds so contradictory to being an introvert, where you're like,
no, I think there's such a thing as a introverted extrovert or extroverted introvert, right? Yeah. Like, I think it really boils down to how do we get energy at the end of the day? Because I'm the same way. I mean, I love to be around people and talk and do all the things, but like to be at home too in my soft clothes when no one is talking to me.
After your 2 glasses of water, so then you can treat yourself with wine. We know your story.
Oh, it's not 2 glasses. It's 64 ounces.
That's right. That's right.
64 ounces of water really before wine.
Glasses.
Gotta stay hydrated. It's how I maintain my youthful glow.
I know, definitely.
Well, what about you, Tausha?
The question was how did I get into my photography business?
Yeah.
Okay,
how did you start? Why did you start?
Answering right.
Yeah. But I'm curious more of like, what was it at the beginning where you were just, and cause I knew you before we knew each other before. I knew you, I'm watching. Yeah. We knew each other before you made that jump into full-time. This is what I'm going to do. So what was that like pivotal moment where you were just like, we're doing this?
Sure. So, well, I would love to give like a little bit of backstory of like why I even became a photographer. So, it's like a little bit of emotional story. So whatever. Anyway,
we love it. We love
it. Kleenex, and you're like,
I always took photos, all the time. This is, by the way, I'm 40. Believe it or not. So when I was taking photos when I was a teenager, you would go and get them developed. And like the 1 hour photo, they all knew my name because I was just there all the time doing photos and getting them developed.
Were you at Eckerd?
Huh?
Eckerd?
Eckerd was a good spot. It's a drugstore. Did you have Revco? Eckerd and Revco.
No.
I don't know anything about this. Okay. I'm from I'm from Oregon. We didn't have Eckerd.
Oh. We had it here in the South.
I don't know anything about that. But, so I always took photos. I took so many photos. And then as I like kept taking photos, again, I knew nothing about like shooting in manual or actually being a photographer, but I would get good photos sometimes. And so people would tell me all the time, you should do photography. Like you should be a photographer. And then even more so when it was digital, because then I was taking like thousands of photos and I would get like a couple good ones. People were like, wow, it's such a good photo. Yeah. Cause I took thousands. That's why. But anyway, what really like catapulted me into doing photography and more intentional photography, was a really good friend of mine. He got killed by a drunk driver.
Oh, wow.
And so after he passed away, I started like collecting photos I had taken of him over the years. And it was just like a really emotional thing for me. It was like one of the first people that was like, I was pretty close to that passed away. And, so I gave all those photos to his mom, and his mom like ended up using so many of them for his funeral and even like had it engraved on his gravestone. And so I just thought to myself, I was like, photos are so important.
Oh my gosh, what a gift.
I was like, photos are so important. And I thought to myself, I'm going to make sure that I always photograph like everyone that I love. And so they can be remembered, like, for generations to come. So that's kind of what started like my passion for photography.
Yes.
And then what really catapulted me into it is when I moved to Nashville, I started doing photography more and more. And then I was like, I wonder how much photographers make.
That's a hard question.
So I started looking up like wedding photographers, even though I'd never shot a wedding. And I was like, $1,000. What? And so like half the people, I thought their work, I was like, yeah, I could do that. And the other half, I was like, oh my gosh, this is so amazing. I could never do that. But I was like, of half of them, I could do it. So I took 1 4-hour workshop, learned how to shoot in manual, never shot an auto again. And then I started my career from there. So that's like what catapulted me.
Wow.
And I spent about 5 years doing that and working, at a bank. I was working for a sales consultancy firm, like helping this executive manage her business life. I was a nanny. I was a lot of different things. And then it just got to a point where my business got so busy that I had to quit all those things.
And when was that? Do you remember what year?
When I went full time?
Yeah.
It's been like 10 years.
Yeah. Mazzo Media is turning 10 this year, but before that, I was a freelancer. So
Yes. Yeah,
I think
met you
that's
when you were a
probably
freelancer.
okay. That's
Yeah.
because I was like, that's probably about when it happened. And you are most recent. This was like what, 2 years?
About
2 years
almost
ago.
2 years.
Okay,
Almost
I
a
love
2
that.
year celebration.
It's, worth celebrating every single year.
Definitely.
Seriously. So we're all at different stages in our businesses. What has been the most surprising thing that's happened in the past 2 years, in the past 10 years since starting your businesses?
Jeez. Go ahead.
Passing it to you.
I'm like, what story? I have a lot.
Right.
So.
These are so fun though, because I think people, they see us obviously on socials and they're like, oh, how do they, their lives are incredible. And I'm like, really? I mean, it is a highlight reel. Like you do have to remember these things.
Totally.
But I love that kind of behind the scenes peek. Like, no, it really, things get weird sometimes, or people are weird. Like people are tough. So anything like that.
Yeah, I think like the balance is there. Like it's funny because Tausha and I have this conversation before where I kind of like the business end of things. And I think like my degree is in graphic design. When I graduated college, I had done photography in college and high school as well, but I love graphic design. I always wanted to create album art. That was my thing. That was what I wanted to
didn't
do.
know that.
Yeah.
Okay.
So when I was in high school, I had a great art teacher, Miss Marsico. Maybe she'll watch this.
Shout out.
But she was fantastic. She was just like super chill, but like always fostered everybody's creativity, like in a way that made sense to them. She wasn't trying to be like, you need to do this and you need to do that. But so we would talk a lot about design, and we didn't really have design in school when I was in school. So it was kind of like self-taught. And then I went to college and we used Dreamweaver, which nobody.
I do.
That was my
That's
first.
how I got my start.
Oh, I built my first website on Dreamweaver and wanted to like slam my head against the wall. I was like, why would anybody, how is this intuitive? I was like, this makes me not want to art ever.
Ever, right.
Creatives now, there's so many resources. Like part of me misses like the guerrilla days where you're like, you know what? I got Mod Podge, I got 3 paint pens.
We're going to make it work.
We're going to make it work. And like, now you look at everybody has AI and this and that and the other stuff. And it is a great tool. And I think it's definitely like, I'm glad a lot of people are being on the forefront of that and they're learning how they can integrate it and incorporate it. If anything, even just for like conceptually, like doing ideas and stuff. But like, man, I miss the days of just like going out back with some spray paint and like how to, you talk about behind the scenes and the highlight reels and all that kind of stuff. And I love the photographers or creatives or individuals that just show more of that side of their business or that side of their process, because that's the interesting stuff to me. And that really allows me to connect. Like a lot of people create really beautiful things on a daily basis. But when you kind of dig a little bit deeper to see how that beautiful thing came to light, you're like, they got something special, because it's just, there's so much to be like slammed with visually every day.
Oh my gosh.
And it like, you need like a mental timeout, but it's like at the same part, I have this love hate with Instagram, because I'm like, I love seeing what everyone's creating. And then I get into my own zone where I'm like, my stuff's not as good. And I, and like you go through that process where it's like,
of course you do.
Oh, so being a business owner and you're like, okay, I need to focus on my business. I need to focus on the creativity. I need to focus on what excites me every day, or what am I providing my clients, or what could I do better for them, and getting the feedback and stuff like that. So it's like the process, the hard part for me being a creative that kind of dabbles in a little bit of everything. I was in marketing for like 17 years. So that was my thing. I went to graphic design, got my degree in graphic design. I was like, I need to make money.
Yeah.
So how do I do that? And I was like, oh, marketing, that sounds great. And then like people don't understand, if you're the marketing manager and you're in a small company, like I worked for a promotional products company, was my first like big boy job. And my boss was great. She's still a friend to this day. She actually lives here and we commiserate about past times. But when you're in like a 2-person marketing department and like you have to do the design work, you have to do the email blast, you have to do all this stuff. And it's like every day is a learning process when you're a small business owner.
100%. You do have to wear it feels like a million different hats. I like to say that we're also, in addition to everything else, we're also the head department of sanitation. Like somebody's got to take the trash out. It's going to be us. What about you? Anything surprising?
Anything?
Pick one
to start.
I think I have a lot of things, but I think surprising to me over the years is sometimes some of the prospects that reach out to you and what they're looking for versus their budget is always very surprising to me. And sometimes it's like very large companies who have a lot of money, and you're just like, that's weird. And yeah, so that's always been, still surprises me to this day, because I get inquiries all the time where I'm like, oh my gosh, this sounds like, I got an inquiry the other day and it was like, hey, I wanted to reach out to you, like, pretty like, think you're a good fit for this beer company. We're gonna do like billboards all over and all these things.
Sounds
and I was just
awesome.
like, okay, this sounds amazing. And I was like, great, let's hop on the phone. I'd love to talk about the budget, see if, I'm a good fit. And then he was very honest and wrote back and was like, well, he's like, I'm thinking, it's like a 4-hour shoot and like $1,000. And I'm like,
you don't understand how this works, do you?
yeah. So that's very surprising to me.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's a very surprising thing.
What is one lesson that your business has taught you that you think everybody should learn at some point in their lives?
Oh my gosh, I have the perfect answer.
I would love to hear it.
I'm like, this is literally what I tell everyone, no matter what business they have. I'm like, set expectations.
Talk more about that.
Like I can't tell you how many photographer friends I have are like, okay, I have this client who wants to use the photo for this and this and this. And I'm like, well, what does your contract say? Well, I didn't do a contract. So, or like, oh, I did a contract, but I didn't talk about what the licensing was or how they could use images. And now they're wanting to use it on a billboard or or they're wanting raw files. I'm like, well, what does your contract say? Or like someone, like even people who are not photographers, like a bride, for instance, they'll be like, I've been waiting 6 months for my photos. And I'm like, oh, well, what does your
contract say?
Your contract say?
Yeah.
And then the photographer never mentions that in the contract. And so I'm just like, I mostly see it more from a photographer standpoint, but that's something I see from a client standpoint. Is like, I'm just like, oh my gosh, set expectations, people. If it's going to take you 8 months to edit someone's photos, they should know. Just setting expectations all around about not just contractual things, but like, what is this shoot going to be? Not only setting expectations, but also just like putting in your contract, but also reiterating those to people. So it's like, I just tell people over and over and over again, and it has saved me so much heartache because I did not do that in the beginning.
Well, you live, you learn. I mean, what I'm also hearing in addition to like setting expectations, but being very clear, like clarity. I've said it before and I will say it again because it's my favorite. Well, it's not my favorite, but it is one of my favorite Brene Brown quotes, but clear is kind. Clear is kind.
Totally.
And so
I love that.
I mean, it's so simple, but I mean, just to live by that and say, That's
like my whole life motto right there.
Yeah.
Clear is kind.
Here are the things that you can expect. Yeah. And here is what I expect from you. Yeah. And there's nothing wrong with that.
Yeah.
Yeah. What about you?
I love it.
I mean, definitely 100% agree. And Tausha's been a great mentor for me when I kind of went on this journey. And so that was something that she really instilled in me. And like, I'm very big on contracts, but I'm very big on communication. Like,
yes.
And realizing as a business owner, like not every prospect or every inquiry is going to be your client. That's something that's taken me a little while to get used to because like there are, like Tausha said, there are really cool jobs that come up and you're like, yeah, man, I'd love to do that. But I also have to support myself. Like this is my only job. Like I don't have any other income. I wasn't a trust fund baby with a silver spoon, whatever. I mean, if anybody wants to support the cause, that's great.
We're taking
sponsorships. I'm really fun to be around. But like communicating with people and explaining to them like, hey, this is my process. Like there's so many, especially in Nashville, there's so many creatives and there's a lot of photographers and there's fantastic people, but it's kind of hard. Like you wish you can get everybody in a room and be like, hey, let's just have one flat page that we can all start off with. Let's all agree that you're not going to come in and say, hey, I'm going to give a 4-hour photo shoot with as many outfits as you want for $20 and you get 150 raw images. Like that's great for your business, but like it is not sustainable.
Well, I mean, I would not.
There's no way.
Yeah.
There's no way.
And it's like, there's no way if you want to be profitable and respectful of your time and your client's time, like that's not how that works. And it's like, I think a lot of people that jump into a business, especially a creative business as a designer or a photographer, like you have to really like set those expectations, communicate the process. And like, just because this is my process, like I've had people reach out to me and they're like, oh, well, that's not how the last person did it. Well, I'm not the last person. And if you really enjoyed that, cool, go back to them. Or if you want to do something different and you really like my work, let's have that conversation. Check.
Yes. So we're obviously here to talk about purpose-driven business. And I know when I asked you to, Anthony was like, I mean, I trust you. So yeah, but like, why me? And I just want to say, like, why not? Because we're all inherently worthy and everyone's on their own path and there's no one right answer or one direct way to get there. Mm-hmm. But I am curious about purpose. Mm-hmm. Just in general, have you considered it? What are your thoughts about it? Do you feel like you're on the right path for you? What does that look like?
I think purpose for me is just it's the same purpose that I hope I instill in my child. Mm-hmm. I've always been like, hey, like it'd be great if he becomes this like amazing, he's a millionaire and he, does all these amazing things and got good grades and all these things. But I'm like, if he's just a nice person, like I did it. And that's exactly how I feel about just life. Like just be a nice person. Like just do that. And that's kind of my purpose in life. And being a nice person encompasses like a whole other
set. There's a lot of different facets.
There's a lot of different facets. But also in saying that, like, there's a time to not be a nice person. And I know when that is too. But overall, like, my purpose is just be a nice person, except for when you have to kick someone's booty. But
sometimes it's necessary.
Sometimes it's necessary.
That was actually when I was thinking about, the lessons that your business has taught you, just to go back a little bit. Mine would be empathy, because I feel like we all need it. The world needs more of it. And so to your point, I think, that's kind of where my head is too. Mm-hmm. What about you, Anthony?
Y'all both turned real fast. I was like, oh God. I feel like it's still a learning thing, trying to kind of start to strip back. It's like your initial thing jumping into like the freelance game is like, okay, so how am I going to make this profitable? Mm-hmm. How am I going to give my clients the best experience? Like you kind of have those little tick boxes that you got to check off, and then you kind of like start to boil it down. And that's either refining your client list. Like that's kind of what I've been in the process of doing. Like I would love to, if money was no object, my purpose would probably be to just take photos every day. Like I just love the ability to be able to showcase somebody in a way that they probably don't see themselves on a regular basis. And we've both had those reactions where like you take a photo of somebody and they're like, nuh-uh. And you're like, yeah, that's seriously how the world sees you. Like, and when someone like me, like I struggle with self-confidence like daily, like, and it's just something that I'm working on. And it's like, you see that other people have that struggle too. And when they see themselves in the way that you see them, you really do see their face light up. And that's what fuels me as a photographer. Like whether it's a branding client, a musician, a model, whoever, like it's inspiring to see these people like come to life being themselves, like I think that's like the beauty of what we do. Taking time to communicate and to learn and to empathize, like all the things we've kind of discussed so far today, like it all comes together. So to kind of find that purpose is like, how can you put those things together in like a tangible visual way?
So we talked a little bit before about, these people who think that our jobs are just so fun. And part of what we do, I think, is we have to bring forth these very creative, brilliant ideas on demand. But they expect that we are magicians kind of in that way where it just like happens. If you're like me though, are there days where you feel just drained and empty?
100%.
Yeah. What in those moments, and this could be, I know Anthony, you just talked about like, these are the things in work that fill me up. Like, what do you do on those days where you're just like, I am done for the moment. I have nothing left to give. Where do you go to fill your life back up? Like, what do you do in this moment?
Just kidding.
Goodwill.
Oh my gosh, that
fair.
is
Retail therapy.
He's not lying. That is 100% what he does.
Well, sometimes you just like, not to dominate that, but like you have to separate yourself from the situation.
Yes.
Like if you're staring at your computer all day long, or you're looking at social media all day long, and if it's really starting to grind on your soul, which it happens to all of us, especially now, but like if I need to like reset and I have the time, my literal
he's definitely a Goodwill. We'll probably go today.
Oh yeah, my guilty pleasure.
We have a break between this and a photo shoot. So.
Yeah,
perfect.
Well, it's just like, okay, if I'm gonna spend some money and I'm not rolling in the dough like Scrooge McDuck, I'm gonna hit up Goodwill. I'm going to find one little piece of retail therapy that's going to make me like, yeah, I didn't need that friggin' tchotchke that's now sitting there taking up space mentally, physically, and monetarily on my shelf. But for that minute, man, I was happy. Visually, I need to get out and look at stuff that is not on a monitor.
Yeah, no, I'm with you. I mean, for something that we talk about, these conversations often bring up like what makes your heart come alive. And if I am, especially if I'm in the middle of a work day where I'm just like, oh, like this day is killing me, to get outside in nature and see pretty things, blue skies, especially right now, like even though it's 1,000,000 degrees, but like pretty flowers, you know, birds, the different chirping colors. Yeah, just hearing bird song. So there's something that happens where, and I think moving a little bit helps you digest some of that or shake out some of that energy that is building up, whatever, you know, around negative situations. But yeah, I hear you. That's what I would do.
Yeah. When my tank is empty, sometimes like I'm a very extroverted person. As you know, big surprise. So I actually like a lot of times just really enjoy like getting out and networking. Like I actually really enjoy that, even though it's like also a work thing. So like just being out with friends, going to dinner, you know, networking, a spa day. I just love a good spa day.
Yes.
And just travel, which I don't do as often as I'd like to, but travel like really just rejuvenates me and just makes me feel like, oh, there's a whole world out there.
Right. There is, that's huge for inspiration for me. Yeah. Just the different colors and cultures and food. Give me all the good food.
I know. Yeah. So
I live vicariously through your Instagram. Like,
see, I told you
on another adventure.
No,
we're working towards goals, and I mean, his last name is Romano.
You have to go.
You have to go to Italy.
So
listen,
we're working on goals. We're gonna do it.
Never had a passport. I've never traveled outside the country.
I know.
This is funny. I've never been to New York.
And he grew up in Pittsburgh.
Yeah. So and I went to school in like up near Erie, PA. So like, and I had friends that went to Chicago and like did this, they went to Canada, and I'm like, I just can't do anything. And I think part of it was like just being in it, like, oh, it's a big scary world out there. And now it's like, dude, you're almost 40. Like, go live a little bit. So it's like trying to tell myself. So like on my list of goals and trying to reset and do stuff and give, you know, fill my cup when it's drained, like taking place in like different places and like having moments and collecting experiences.
Yeah.
Like my parent, we never traveled when I was little, so it was just never on my radar. So like I didn't have a bad childhood. I just never, something we never did. So like I hear about people going on all these adventures. I'm like, how did you do that? I was like,
let me say this, because that's always something that I've wanted to do. You listed some of my favorite places. I love New York. It's magical. Had an amazing time in Italy. If I don't take time to set aside travel days at the beginning of the year, it doesn't happen.
Oh, okay.
So because it's so easy, that's what I was thinking about when you were saying, you know, we never traveled growing up. And I'm like, it really is easy to get in that routine where you're just like, I've got a million things to do. Bills need to be paid. Got to take on a new job. And so if that is a priority, or if you want to make it a priority, that would be my advice. And that's what I've noticed. We had 1 year where we didn't travel, and it was because I didn't think about it at the beginning of the year and say, okay, I want to do this, this, and this. And then you can work up to it. You got to do it.
It's on the list.
So when we started dreaming up doing heart things, I think I was telling you a little bit about this before, but I started thinking about our city of Nashville, how we have so many brilliant entrepreneurs with such big hearts for the people here and for giving back to the community. And so when I reached out to you both, I was thinking specifically of your involvement with Best Buddies, Tausha, your involvement with the Tennessee Women's Prison, and even just, I mean, both of you, the way that you're so generous in mentoring aspiring creatives, photographers, and graphic designers. I would love for you both to chime in and tell me why that feels important to you and what your favorite parts of doing that are.
Sure. So I have been, how long have I been volunteering with Best Buddies?
over 10 years.
Yeah, I think it's over a decade now.
Yeah. And Anthony, you've also like
Oh, yeah.
been like a second shooter and stuff. Yeah.
has been gracious enough to kind of introduce me to that team and just what they do for, I mean, it's just like, it's beautiful to see all these people. And like, so I've been very fortunate to be around.
Can you, for those of you, or for those listening who don't know what Best Buddies does? So
what Best Buddies, they do a lot of things, but what they do primarily is help people with intellectual and developmental disabilities. Their core value is like to have like true friendships. So it kind of started more in like high schools and things like that. And so they would team somebody who maybe isn't like, you can call them, you know, not typically developing, but intellectual developmental disabilities up with someone who's more typical. And these kids would truly create friendships. Like I've seen it over the decade that I've photographed there. I have photographed people when they were like 11 years old and now they're adults, you know, that's like incredible. It's just like, and they're still best friends and they still involve them in everything. And so, that part of it's like really powerful to me because a lot of these kids, like some of them, you know, have autism or, there's a lot of people in there with Down syndrome. And some of those kids, like they would have kids, adults, whatever. They do all the ages. They have a citizen program as well. But these kids would have no friends. Like nobody, you know, no one's inviting them over for a sleepover. Like nobody's inviting them out to the movies. And like this helps to curate like friendships and true friendships, not just like, oh, go be this person's friend. Yeah. And then beyond that, some of the other really cool things they do is they also have a jobs program. So, which is, it's like amazing. So if you're like, say you own a healthcare company, you know, obviously like a lot of people who own businesses are like, well, I'd love to like bring someone on maybe who has Down syndrome, but we don't have the time to sit,
train them,
and cause it could take a year, like, you know, different, just depending on what their disability is. And what Best Buddies does is they actually have someone from Best Buddies that learns the job, works with that person for however long it takes and helps that person have a job. And so they get these, like a lot of times people with disabilities will end up bagging groceries. And if they love that, that's fine. But like so many of them, they have such bigger skill sets than that. And I've personally seen it in people that I photographed for them. Like I've, you know, photographed some of the jobs participants, like at Home Depot. One of them worked for a medical care company and he started like with cleaning CPAP machines. He's autistic and he is like the most detailed person ever. Yeah. So like people are sending these in to get cleaned and he's cleaning it perfect. And then like he worked his way up and now he like has a condo in downtown Franklin. He has a girlfriend.
Good
like he's
on
making
him.
like good money. He has a car. Like, and prior to that, he was bagging groceries. Yeah. Because people thought that's all he could do. So anyway, that's why I like love Best Buddies. And then in addition to that, they do all kinds of fun events and Best Buddies. Well, they call it the Friendship Ball now, but it's basically a prom. It's at Bridgestone. It's like 1,200 people. It's amazing. Fun. It's so much fun. So I just love, they just have constant like events for people and it's amazing to see.
I've been very fortunate enough, like to be, you know, when I was kind of in the corporate world, I was so fixated on, you know, being the one man show. So I didn't get a chance to really invest my time into organizations or other individuals and stuff. And you had connected me with a Belmont student. And that was fantastic. She's just so great. I didn't have a traditional path as a business owner or a freelancer or a creative, you know, like I talked about, like my degrees in graphic design, but I now primarily do photography with a supplemental graphic design. So, you know, I'm totally down to share any kind of knowledge that I may have, whether it's right or wrong. Like I have another photographer that I'm kind of mentoring a little bit. And when he first reached out, I was like, why me? I was like, are you sure you got the right email address here? But then it's like, you kind of look at it and you're like, okay, well, I do have something that's valuable to whatever degree. You know, I've been fortunate enough to be around a lot of creatives, you know, Tausha and a few others that have just been like my mentors, Tausha primarily, but, you know, a couple others as well. And it's like, they're not doing anything that they wouldn't want. Like, I don't want to take up anyone's time. I don't want to, you know, but it's like, if they're willing to, and I want to be that for somebody else, like, hey, if I can answer a question or if I can help alleviate something that maybe I struggled with, you know, like with Avery, for example, like her being able to like do graphic design, but be like, oh, photography is cool. And that's kind of how we came together. And she was like, I didn't even know this. And, you know, and watching her kind of grow over the short time that I've known her, and I'm like, oh my goodness, like just seeing this new crop of creatives and kind of being like, you know, you want to be in their corner, like,
yeah,
so
cheering them on.
Yeah,
No,
because,
I feel the same way. I mean, I was a music major
Yeah.
in college. So when you said like I don't have a traditional path, I'm like, I didn't know anything about business. We just kind of threw our hat in the ring and we were, you know, figuring it out as we go for better or for worse, but we're here. But yeah, I feel that way too. I mean, there are people that maybe even not creatively, just as a person have sewed into my life. I feel like it's really important for me to do the same thing. And I've had conversations with people. I had one that will air earlier where she says, I didn't immediately identify as a business owner. I didn't feel like that's who I was, even though I was owning a business. Therefore, I was a business owner. I mean, for a long time, I didn't feel like I could call myself a graphic designer, even though people were paying me to do graphic design. Imposter. Yeah. Or like, you know, I think there's something that it feels the same for a lot of people where they're like, how do what is it that A, why do we feel that way? And B, I don't know, like, how do you then get over that? Or how do you feel confident enough to kind of carve out a space in this world to go, I'm planting my business right here and we're just going to fake it till we make it.
I mean, that's kind of what it is. I sometimes hate that phrase, but I'm just like, you have to be like, okay, like I am doing this. This is who I am. Like just start speaking into your life. Like speak it so you can receive it, you know? Go to that like church talk, you know?
And I think like not being afraid to ask for help, ask questions, you know, like there's a lot of people that are just super proud that they're like, oh, I love the life that you live, or I love what you're doing, but I could never do that because I've been there, you know, and I'm just like, how the heck do you make that a reality? And it's like, okay, well, you got to, you know, continue to educate yourself. You got to continue to surround yourself with the right people, you know, like I think that's a huge thing.
Oh, that is
like being around
number one, probably
good people. We're very fortunate to have each other, but we, you know, we both have separate accountability systems other than each other that are in our corner rooting. And I think if we can kind of give that back to anybody and be able to be their person when they might not have it starting out, like
that's such a gift.
Yeah, it's just like if we can just, again, empathy and communication, like all those things, it's like there's so many creatives here and so many people that want to take that leap to full-time, you know, business owner. And it's like none of us, there's no like manual. There's no like, I can't go on the internet and be like, how to become a business owner.
Right.
Like, you could, but it ain't gonna work.
No.
And everything is so different. It depends on your demographic, the area you're in, all those things.
Yes.
So like, just being able to be open and being able to ask for help, I think is a huge thing.
Yes, it's so huge and just so generous for you both to do that. I've seen it, and I've seen the people on the other hand who are receiving it, and just it's great. Okay, so we have a segment here on Doing Hard Things. It's called Pick a Card, Any Card. These are very professional.
I like that.
Oh, I can tell.
You know what? I knew when I saw them that you were a graphic designer. I was like, this is...
I was like, she's such a good graphic designer.
We hired this amazing artist to draw these cards. Okay, so we've got a pink heart, blue diamonds, purple pyramid, orange arrows, red check, green clover, and or palm tree, whatever, and a gold star. Okay. So pick a card, any card.
Anthony, you go first.
I'm gonna go with the orange
arrows.
Yeah.
Okay. What's something new you've learned about yourself in the last 3 months?
It's gonna sound so cheesebally, but like I feel like that I'm worthy and I'm competent. Like that sounds so like
Heck
whatever.
yes.
No, I love it.
Like, and
celebrate
Tausha knows like my story,
awesome.
and you know my story. We've everybody in here knows my story. And like I mentioned earlier, like self-confidence has always been a struggle for me. And I think in a creative field, and when you're like bidding up against jobs with other people, and you sit back and you're like, well, I didn't get that why. And
must be something about me.
Yeah, it's like okay, and then it goes back to okay, not everybody's my client. I'm not everybody's photographer. Like just realizing that stuff. So like kind of finding that like ease into self-worth, ease into confidence, like stuff that like for a recovering people pleaser is super hard. And like just so in the past 3 months, like those are the kind of things that I've learned about myself that I'm like, you are a good photographer, you are a good designer, you are a good people person, you are a good person in general. Like those aren't things to discount. So I think over the past like 3 months, trying to like focus more on that instead of like I wish I had this. If you put positive affirmations in your life, or you think positively, more of that is going to come to you. It's just general stuff. I'm not going to sit there and like
science.
It's
science.
Like I'm not sitting there like waking up oming in the morning, and like, I mean, that's cool if you do that, but that's just not how I operate. So like when I first like started reading books, like reading is hard, but I was like, I picked up a book once and I was like, oh, you're not making this, like You Are a Badass, the Jen Necessary.
Love that book so much.
And so like I have You Are a Badass and You're a Badass.
I kept sending him like, I was listening to the audiobook and I would like do little clips and send it to him and be like, you need to read this book. and it's true, because the way that book is presented is a very natural way to think about it. It is not this like, that's just not my thing. So when it's presented in a very natural way of like, hey, don't be dumb, like just think positively about X, and you're going to have a better outcome. You might not have the outcome that you want, but you're going to have a better outcome because you're putting it out there that like, hey, Chicken Little, the world is not falling. Stuff's going to be okay.
It's going to be okay. And what I was thinking about too, as you were talking, you know, I think maybe I have a little of the people pleaser in me, but more than that, it was a perfectionism thing. And that's a whole thing too. Yep. And I don't think there is a set point and an end point. It's just every day we got to make these decisions. But some of those root core things like worth. Okay. We're all worthy, whether we know it or not. We all are. And I think those types of things maybe have nothing to do with work. We're just fortunate where we get to kind of integrate the two. Yep. Yeah. But operating from that level, knowing that this is a constant, regardless of whether my work is up or down. Yeah. This is still always on point, you know? Yeah.
Okay. I was feeling the, I literally almost called it a diamond. It's a triangle. I was feeling the diamond.
Because there are blue diamons.
No.
I like alliteration, so I've been going with a purple pyramid.
Oh, I like it.
Pyramid? Okay. Triangle? I don't know. It's this okay. This one is the
pyramid,
one you want.
It's not a diamond.
Okay.
It's I
don't know, you know.
Yeah.
It's been a while since I've done my shapes. So.
This one feels obvious, but I still kind of want to hear it. Okay. Because you may surprise me. I don't know. Tell me about a time you were scared and did the thing anyway.
One time, I had someone reach out. They wanted me to do it. It was for a charity, which I think you know this, and Anthony definitely knows this. I give a ton of my time away to charity, for free, like 100% for free. But there are times when maybe it's a charity I don't know much about, or what they're asking me to do, like the amount of work. I'm like, I have to get paid something. Like, you have to pay me. Mm-hmm. So one time, I will not mention the charity, but this person reached out to me. They're like, hey, we were wondering if you could photograph this boat race from a helicopter for free. And like, I was like, I've never been in a helicopter and I literally might die. So I was like, I have to get paid. Like, you have to pay me. So, and at the time, this was probably 12 years ago. So I think I charged like $450, which was a lot at the time for me. Mm-hmm. But I was like, I'm not going in a helicopter like for less than that. So anyway,
it's like a hazard fee.
Yeah, totally.
I have insurance, but I'm going to need more insurance.
Yeah. So I had to meet them out at this place where the boat race started. And we get out there, they're like kind of clearing people out, and a helicopter lands. And there's like tons of people around, but they're like cleared out. So the helicopter lands, and I kid you not, I am not joking. Within 30 seconds of that helicopter landing, the NTSB was there. The like people who come when there's like a plane crash or like whatever. And it was like federal agents were there.
Wait, why?
Yes, before the helicopter propellers were done. I was like, and like they're there and they're like, and the pilot had just gotten out and they're like coming up like federal agents.
Wait, what happened?
I will tell you. So
I'm like, is it on fire? Yeah. Are the propellers flying off? So like, what's going on?
The pilot had just gotten out and he was talking to someone. The federal agents walk up and they're like, where's the pilot? And we're just like, what the? I'm like, oh, he's over there. Like, and I had never met him before. And come to find out, he had been a pilot for 25 years. So he's not like a new pilot or anything. And he flew regular aircraft as well.
Okay.
So I find all this out after. But anyway, apparently he had called the mayor because he knew the mayor, and asked, hey, do you mind if I land here? Because it's like whatever. So the mayor said, yeah, you can land there. Well, it turns out it's federal land.
Oh, no.
And he should have known and had gotten like approval.
Yes.
And
Even
so,
with drones, we have to get airspace approval.
100%.
Yeah.
So they literally were like, you can't fly this helicopter. And I was supposed to photograph from the helicopter. And there's another guy that's filming too. So this guy is like trying to talk these NTSB agents down. Like he's like, I'm volunteering my time, blah, blah, blah. And I'm thinking to myself, like, do you know what you're doing? Because you should have known not. And then
also,
anyway,
good sir, they can arrest you.
Oh yeah. And they're like, so they set up a court date for him, and he was able to talk them into letting him like leave from there and let us fly so we could photograph. So all that to say, like, I was like a little nervous about getting in a helicopter.
This all happened before you got in.
Before I've ever gotten in the helicopter.
What?
Yeah. So I was like, does this guy know what he's doing? Right. So anyway, get in that. He convinces them because they weren't going to let him. They're like going to take his license away. But they like to just set up a court date he had to go to and all that stuff. He was very upset too. So I'm like, please don't crash because you're upset. Anyway, so he convinces them to let us go. So we're going down the river. And if you know anything about the river, on either side are power lines.
Oh my God.
And so like if a helicopter hits a power line, like you will go down and you will die. So as we're flying, keep in mind, I'm photographing boat stuff. So he's turning the helicopter sideways. And I have everything connected to me, right? Because we can't let a camera fall out. It will kill someone.
Right.
So everything's like double connected to me, and we're sideways in a helicopter, and we have our little things on so I can hear him because we're talking to each other. Mm-hmm. And so I'm sideways, I'm photographing. And then he like says to me and the video guy, like, hey, I'm going to go over this way. Let me know if you see a power line. I'm like, oh my God, I'm going to die. Anyway. So this story will end soon, I promise, but it's so good. So anyway, I'm thinking to myself, does he know where we can land, where we're not going to get in trouble? So apparently he like knows the Titans owner, and we land in the Titans parking lot. That's where we land. And then we get out and we go across the bridge and eat some food. And like an hour later, we have to fly back. But I'm like, we can't fly back to the same place because it's federal land, right? So he's like, I'm going to drop you guys off somewhere else. I know someone who owns land. He's like, and you'll have to call someone to pick you up. He's like, it's like out the same way. So he doesn't tell us where he's taking us. And so we go out, we're driving, and then all of a sudden I see a golf range where people just do like golf, and that is where we're landing. There's people there, and he's like, I'm going to take you here, and he said behind a Mexican restaurant. And it was behind a Mexican restaurant, and he lands us in the middle of a golf range. We like get out. The camera guy has a huge camera. I have both my cameras on. It just looks like, what is happening?
Right.
Like, why are
behind a Mexican restaurant?
Behind a Mexican restaurant. And then we went in and ate lunch and had someone pick us up. But that was a story where I was like, well, I guess I'm scared. I'm very scared, but I'm going to do this.
And you have a great story to tell now.
Sorry, that was a really long story.
No, that's fascinating.
But it is one of the weirdest, for sure.
That's really funny. So I'm curious, what do you want to be remembered for?
Go ahead, Anthony. I just talked for a long time.
How amazing I am.
Well, of course.
No, I don't know. That's a very loaded question.
It is a very loaded question.
That's kind of weird that you did that on something like this podcast where you like want to get to heart things and you want to like talk about loaded questions like that.
How dare I?
I guess I'd just like to be remembered as being a good person, and just someone that's just genuine, I've never really put on a front to, impress people or whatever. I'd always been like, oh, that's kind of weird. So I was just like, this is what it is. Like, this is
what you see is what you get.
Yes, exactly. Yeah. And it's like the older that I get, the more comfortable I am like saying stuff like that, where I'm just like, you know what? I really feel like ever since, and I talked to a lot of people about this, a lot of friends stuff, like once you hit like 30, you stop caring.
Yep. No, it was like 40 for me.
I was going to say, it's a little bit later, but yes.
But you know what I mean? Like once you kind of hit that level in your life where you're just like, okay, I know who I am. For the most part, there's fluctuations and whatever. But like, I think that once you kind of like just settle into yourself and you can just be like, yeah, whatever it is, what it is. Am I this? No. Am I that? Great, whatever. but kind of just being remembered as like a genuinely like authentic, kind, creative, funny person. Like that's kind of what I would hope, that someone would be like, man, that guy was cool. Like,
I love that. I would call you both very authentic.
Thank you.
Yeah.
I ain't got time to do nothing else.
Yeah. Same.
You know?
Yeah.
I'm basically, authentic. He just stole everything I wanted to say. Rude.
Copy, paste.
Copy.
Copy, paste.
Copy paste. No, I think I really do. Like everything Anthony said is the same for me too. It's like, I just want to be that same thing I said about my kid. Like I just want to be remembered for like just being a nice person.
Yeah.
Except for when I didn't need to be. And Ghetto Tasha came out and showed somebody what was.
Gotta take off my earrings.
Hold my bag.
I'm from Atlanta. I know what's up.
I'm from Eugene, Oregon. But hey, we still be what's the word? We still be slinging.
I was going to say tussling, but that's like so like minor. We're going to tussle. Like if you ever watched, what was that show on Nickelodeon?
Tussling feels like
Drake and Josh. They'd be like, you want to tussle? So I always think
It's like a slap of a glove.
Yeah.
That's the extent of me being like, I grew up on the mean streets of like Sesame Street. Like
Yeah.
Oscar the Grouch is the excess of how mean I can get. So that's
Yeah.
I
my
love it.
parameter.
I'll take it.
Yeah, I think the big, like what I really mean by that in a non-ghetto way is I want to be remembered as like somebody who just was a nice person, but also stood up for things that were wrong. Like that's really,
Heart for justice.
yeah, like just
Like Batman.
100%.
Yes. Batman.
So that's really what it boils down to.
I love that.
Yeah.
What is one question that you wish I'd asked, and how would you answer it?
That's on you. You can start this one.
Yeah, so you'll have time to think of something better. Rude.
My plot. It's all coming together.
I wish you would have asked me. Oh, I don't know.
This is another way of
hard.
saying, like,
Yeah.
is there something that you wish we talked about that we didn't talk about?
Probably the best program, in the prison program.
Tell me about that.
Yeah.
Yeah, I really want to hear about that.
Probably like I think it's very cool. So the best program is Building Entrepreneurial Success in Tennessee, and it is it's been in a men's prison as well, but I'm involved in the women's prison, their program, and basically what it is like entrepreneur program for women that are within 2 years of being released. Like Belmont business students are part of it. The entrepreneur organization is part of it. Tons of really successful business owners are part of it. And they basically help these inmates. They do Toastmasters while they're in this program. They learn about conflict resolution.
Oh, wow. That's huge.
So it's like learning a ton of life skills, and they put together a business plan. Like they do all of this amazing stuff. And it doesn't mean they're going to walk out of prison and, start a business right away, but they're all felons. So, it's like, it's really hard to get a job, but like just learning these like basic skills that a lot of them did not learn. Like, okay, like if someone upsets you, like you don't need to get in a fight with them. Like, let's have a conversation, be like, hey, like, just let someone know how you feel. Don't let it bottle up, like things like that. And then learning, the Toastmasters thing is amazing. Like when I see some of them speak, I'm like, oh my gosh, like this is better than most people I hear.
Yeah.
So,
Huge communication skills. Yeah.
and I just really have a heart for that, because I've known a lot of people that have gone to prison. I have family that have gone to prison that are good people. They've just made different choices than me. And I also think we're all just one mistake away from being somewhere like that. And people, I think when they don't know someone who's ever gone to prison, they're just like, oh, they're just bad people who deserve to be there. And it's like, hey, they did do something, and 100% probably deserve to be there. Some of them don't deserve to be there as long as they are. Just personal opinion. But it's just, we're all like, if you have too much to drink and you decide to drive, guess what? And you accidentally kill someone or hurt somebody, guess what? You could end up there by your one stupid mistake. So, and then not even to get into the whole, well, I will get into it because it's a huge part of recidivism in prisons. The recidivism rate, I think, is like close to like 80%. Like when people go to prison, 80% of them end up coming back.
Yeah.
With the best program, 80% of people who graduated, they're still out.
Oh, it's incredible.
I have so many thoughts about why like people end up in prison, and I would rather people not be there, but like, let's help the people that are there get back into society and be good citizens.
One of my favorite stories, just listening to you talk about your experience with them, you take their portraits
Yes. Mm-hmm.
when they graduate.
Yeah, I do.
And
with their families and everything too. And I could never post them, of course.
Of course. But
yeah.
I think that is such, it just goes back to being such a gift because they are then seeing themselves. And they have to wear their uniforms, but you cover them up.
Yeah, I try to cover as best I can with their graduation. Like, so I will kind of like, because they wear these blue uniforms, so we kind of tuck it in. But I take like legit good portraits of them. Like,
yeah, I just think that's so powerful for them to be able to see themselves, you know, as like, look at what I've accomplished.
Yeah.
Now, like, yes, I'm in prison, but it doesn't, that story does not have to follow me.
Yeah.
So I think that's really powerful.
The last photo is sometimes like their mugshot, you know? And so it's just like a flip the script.
Just to see all these people so excited for this next step in their life and like to hear them talk about their business plans and what they want to do and like to see the people that were shy and to see the people that were not shy.
Oh, yeah.
Just kidding.
Okay.
Yeah.
Last question to bring it back around to purpose. What is your why?
My why. What is my why? I think my why is my family and my chosen family. Like Anthony is my chosen family. Like I really truly don't have a lot of close friends. Like I definitely have friends, but like close friends, Anthony is one of them. But those people like are the people who inspire me and like keep me going. Like, and obviously my son is my why. You know, I like my husband too. That's cool.
I guess for my why, I guess, I don't know, like I think about from a photography standpoint, like my why is just to make sure people like understand that they're seen and like seen that, you know, and I always go back to the way that they don't see themselves. Cause like not every day are you having a photo shoot, whether it's a large one or a small one, you know, whether it's at the women's prison or whether it's a big, you know, shoot for a hotel or whatever, like these, you know, everybody wants to be seen. Documenting moments, I think, is like the why, you know, like why are we here? Why are we on this earth? Why are we purpose driven? Why are we trying to fill the voids, fill the holes, and like just finding the chosen family, friends, like people that just make you feel good all around that you can laugh at yourself about is like, that's like my favorite thing.
Yeah. I mean, I can do product stuff. If you want to pay me enough, I'll do it. But I'm like, what ignites fire me is anything just with people. Like I love people. I love people. See how good the singing is, you guys? This is why I did not make it.
You guys, this has been such a treat.
Yes.
I had the best time.
I'm so
Thank
glad.
you so much for coming.
Is it the best episode you've ever done?
You may win the award.
Is there going to be like a party and like we can dress up and then we can walk down a little red carpet and then we can just hold the award?
Yeah, are you going to have like a launch party? Is there going to be a launch party for this?
That sounds really fun. I haven't thought about that, but maybe we could do it. I don't know. We'll stay tuned. Stay tuned.
Thank you so much for thinking
Thank
of us
you.
and having us. It's been a great adventure.
Good job, Anthony.
Hell yeah.
If you'd like to hear more, you can follow Tausha at Tausha Dickinson and Anthony at Anthony Romano Creative. We're also on Instagram at Doing Hard Things and at Mazzo Media. Thanks for joining us today. Did this conversation strike a chord with your heart? We'd love for you to share your story with us at mazzomedia.com/heart. Please also share, subscribe, rate, and review wherever you listen to podcasts. We appreciate your help getting us into your friends' ears. We'll see you back here with the next episode. Until then, keep doing hard things.
Doing Hard Things is brought to you by Mazzo Media, an award-winning creative studio in Nashville, Tennessee. We work with people, brands, and organizations to help tell their stories through videography, photography, graphic design, and social content. We believe that everyone has a story worth telling, and it's in those stories that we build bridges to each other. Ready to share yours? Get started at mazzomedia.com.